first off, man, kudos on your movie. I can't say enough good things about it.
Yeah. Ryan, thanks for joining us to talk about Fried Berry today.
Start with thank you for being here, but I'm just so excited to talk about Fried. I had no idea what I was walking into, and I think that's my favorite thing about it, is that you did such a good job with the trailer that it could be anything based on the trailer.
Yeah, I think that was the good thing. I think with the trailer, it's it doesn't, you see, I like trailers that don't tell you everything. Like most trailers these days, it tells you absolutely everything. And the thing is, the trailer doesn't give away any of the story or anything. It's just a bunch of images of, really weird and creative and stuff like that. But it also, it is everything that it says it is, but way fucking more that you don't expect.
Yeah, I ended up, when I watched it, I ended up having to post an Instagram story midway through because I just I couldn't go any farther without being everyone watch this now.
And I appreciate that you went that way with the trailer because I really fucking hate modern trailers these days. I'm completely prepared every time I start a trailer to pause and end it halfway through because I know the last half of the trailer is going to give away so much plot.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's funny. It's funny how trailers have developed over the years. I mean, if you look at trailers now, it literally tells you the whole story. There's it does all the spoilers.
Yes. Yeah.
But then it's funny if you look at the 80s trailers, the bad thing about the 80s trailers, which I still love, obviously, but the bad thing about the 80s trailers would be it would show the main guy, the main bad guy, and then he would blow up and you're like, well, he fucking dies. Well, he obviously fucking dies in the movie. So
they just didn't give a shit at all.
Yeah.
Well, but to be fair though, 80s movies were much more formulaic in the sense that there was they were real, especially American 80s action films. There was a subtext there that the bad guy always had to lose.
Well,
and the good guy always had to win.
And there was a lot of people who were going to the movie strictly for the explosion. So if you didn't get the explosion in the trailer, are you even going to go see it?
Yeah.
In the 80s, I don't know.
Yeah, but that's also why the trailers sometimes you'll show all the best bits in the trailer and then you watch the film and it's shit. You're like, I want to watch it.
Yes, exactly. Especially with comedies.
Yeah. Michael Bay has made an entire career from that. From that formula.
Yeah, exactly.
But we loved Fried Berry, and what really sparked my interest first is that it spawned from a short film, and I watched the short film, and it's obviously insane. Yeah. So I need to know where this idea came from initially, the concept for the short, and then how you expanded it to a feature. So
when I shot the 3-minute experimental short, it was a standalone little experimental film, and it was just about a guy, heroin addict in an abandoned building, tripping on his latest hit, and that was it, and. It was almost like a drug PSA, don't fucking do drugs or this is going to happen.
Sure.
And
it works really well, is that?
Yeah, this is your brain on drugs.
Yeah. No, exactly. And that was the whole thing with the fried eggs, going back to that, this is your brain on drugs and all that, there was all those little elements. Sure. But again, the short was also designed to make you feel uncomfortable, for that, and stretching that time for being uncomfortable. But with that, the reason why I made that short film was because at the time, I was shooting loads of music videos and doing commercials and stuff like that. So I wanted to shoot, to do a 4.5-year project, which I'm still working on right now, which was to do, a bunch of experimental films, but there's no rules. So I don't have to worry about a studio or a producer or a manager or getting it on TV. I can just do what I want to do and I don't have to listen to anybody. So that's why I started making these experimental films. And it just happened to be that the first one was Fried Berry. We took that to film festivals and we played all over the world and won awards. And randomly people started doing fan art from that, which was weird because it was a short film. So it's who the fuck makes fan art for a short film? And
Gary Green is a very striking individual.
Yeah, definitely.
He burns in your brain.
Definitely. And that was the thing. And shortly after that, long story short, I went through depression and all this crap. And I was what is the number one thing that I've always wanted to do? And it was to make a feature film. And I had all these other scripts that I could have chose, probably would have been way easier to shoot. But then when I when the idea came to me for the movie, I've just thought, this is the right one. This is the right one to do for a first time feature film director. This is the right one to do because it's one, I can get really creative, and and it's the type of film that whether you like it or not, you will fucking remember it. So that was a big thing. And and then in 3 days I wrote a 50% brief scene breakdown, and a month later we started shooting. And as we were going, I was like writing as we were going, and it just developed as we went. But the Fried Barry is designed to take, it's an experience, it's a journey, it's a, and this is why I always say it's not about the story. The story's easy. It's the story's about a heroin addict that gets abducted by aliens, spat back out on Earth, and this alien takes this human body on a joyride. That's it. That's the story. It doesn't, it's the movie's about, more about the experience and more about the journey that you go on as Barry or with Barry. But at the same time, there's a lot of depth and character arc, a lot of depth in the film where it's like, the darker side of humanity and how fucked up society is. And, but there's also a lot of heart in the movie as well, like with the relationship with him and his wife. And it's, there's a lot of depth in there. And that's why, but it's from writing this film and knowing my target market and stuff like that, it's also one of those films where I knew straight away is you're either going to love it or you're going to hate it. You're either going to get it or you're not going to get it. And if you don't go into it open-minded, you're not going to enjoy it. It's not a movie that you're going to enjoy. So it's like, don't take it too fucking seriously. It's just like, it's fucking crazy. It's like a nuts movie. And I really try to make it unpredictable that, when we watch majority of films, it's like, okay, it's either going to go this way or it's going to go this way. And it's always one or the other. So I really try to make it unpredictable to go down these, different roads as we go along. And it's about, the 2 days bender of these things. So it's one thing after the next. And that's why I said it's not a heavy narrative story. The story is easy. It's the trip. It's the experience that you're going to go on with this character. And that's why I always say it's like a road movie without the car, but Barry's the car, and we're going along meeting all these people.
I feel like I've attributed it to like a roller coaster. Like you said, it was like a ride, but I feel like there's like Barry is along for the ride and the alien's driving, but then we're in the car behind them, being pulled along. Yeah. And that's kind of how the movie feels, right?
Well, and Jordan likened it to Fear and Loathing.
Yeah.
And I thought about that after we talked about that. And really, it's got a very Terry Gilliam quality in general to it.
Yeah. And that's what I wanted with all the wider angles, looking in on his POVs and all that. That was like one of my references. I love Terry Gilliam. And and that's why a lot of the movie, you either with them or you're seeing what he sees. So the camera's always like either behind him or it's POV. So it's always the perspective of you're on this journey as him and experiencing, and then or you're watching him and you're going on the journey with him. And then it's also like within the movie and the characters he meets, it's like he's as an alien, he's experiencing these new people that's coming into his sight. And it's also them experiencing him for the first time.
Right.
So I got to ask, how did you meet Gary Green?
Everybody always asks me that. It's like, how do you know this
he's such a
Where did you find this guy?
Yeah, it's like I could believe either that he is the most amazing method actor ever, or I could believe that he was just some random homeless guy that you were like, this is
my
Barry.
muse.
Yeah.
This is my muse right here.
It was raining one night and there was a grid outside my house, and I just picked up the grid and then he just came out. And the grid, and we became friends.
Like Pennywise.
Yeah.
All right, that checks out.
So I gotta ask, what genre do you consider this film? Because it's billed to horror fans a lot, but to me it felt like Fear and Loathing. It felt like one of those kinds of movies. There's obviously a lot of sci-fi.
Yeah, it's definitely a genre mashup, because it's like it's not a horror film, that's for sure. You know what I mean? It has horror elements.
Agreed.
And it has a shitload of comedy in there, and it has the sci-fi elements. It's a bit of a mashup, and that's from the start. I wanted to make a cult style movie of what, the 10, 12-year-old me back in the day would have loved. You know what I mean? If this came out when I was a kid, I would have loved it, you know?
Well, and we were talking about 80s movies earlier. I think what you're describing is sort of one of the things that made 80s sci-fi so good or 80s horror so good, is that the majority of the mainstream stuff wasn't defined, wasn't a defined genre, right? Yeah. You think about stuff like They Live, right? Yeah. Like you can't put a genre on They Live.
All Carpenter, right? Because Carpenter was always like just genre bending.
Yeah, and I mean, it's interesting to me to see this generation of filmmakers that's starting to make stuff now in a serious way that all grew up in the same time period as me and on the same stuff. And I'm seeing.
So how old are you guys now?
I'll be 40 in about 2 months.
I'm 33.
So it's around our age group. When we were growing up in the 80s, it was all those films, and that's why. If you look at Fried Barry, there's tons of 80s references in the movie. There's fucking loads. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Even like 70s with like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest or Aliens or Explorers or E.T. or there's loads. There's like tons of references there. Like my three main references was early 90s film, Bad Boy Bubby meets John Carpenter's Starman meets E.T. So it was basically those three mashed up.
Hell yeah.
And then made my take on it and, changed it up a hell of a lot.
Yeah, there was a lot of E.T. in it, from the healing hands to the wanting to go home. I loved that.
Well, and one question I had, there's a lot of back and forth between English and Afrikaans in it. Am I saying that right, by the way, Afrikaans?
Yeah.
Was that a decided choice, or was it just sort of natural, like they slipped into speaking Afrikaans naturally and it was like, oh, I got to subtitle this now?
No, for me it was just like, you see, I could have made this film or any of the other films, and I could have made it, shot here but made it American, so it's like so it might be easier to sell to certain markets, but that's what everybody does, no matter what. So at the same time, I'm like, no, I want this film to be 100% South African, and that's also what makes it different. So, I wanted to see, because, around the world, people only know South Africa for a number of things. It's like, you mention South Africa, they go, oh, D'Anford, or they go, oh, District 9, or, they shot, Clint Eastwood shot that film with Matt Damon here, or whatever. So it's, there's only like a very small amount of things that people mention. But because it's a South African film and it involves an alien, people are always going to go, oh, it's like a District 9 movie. And I'm like, no, it's completely fucking different.
It's nothing like that.
You're just like, if that's what you need, then yes, sure.
So I just wanted to have its own like identity and be 100% South African. And that's what's going to make it different.
It definitely has an air of authenticity because of that. You know what I mean? That draws you into the story that much more when Barry and his wife will just randomly slip into Afrikaans. You have the subtitle, and you're like, "Oh fuck, this is how they really talk."
And that's the other thing. It's like, if you noticed, even in the past like 4 to 5 years, it's also changed a lot more, where it's more acceptable subtitles. I mean, there's only a few lines in it here and there, but if you look at like what's on Netflix and stuff now, we're way more acceptable to subtitles in films, and that's how people speak here. They'll speak English and go, half in Afrikaans and half in English, so it's a common thing.
Yeah.
So is heroin like a really big problem where you're at? Is that something that fueled the decision to make this movie? 'Cause I mean, where we're from, we live in an area where they've called it epidemic status.
We're from Baltimore, which is like one of the hubs of opiate abuse here.
So when we see this movie, we're like, yeah, okay, we understand where this is coming from. Is that something you see a lot where you're from, in Cape Town?
I mean, obviously there is drugs here, and people do. I think one of the biggest drugs is, I'm just trying to think now. It's tick. Or meth. So I mean, I think that's quite common in South Africa, right? Not in my circles, but that's
well, sure.
but for me it wasn't anything to do with that. See, the funny thing about South Africa is we don't make these type of films like whatsoever. We make historical movies about the history of South Africa. We make dramas and we make comedies. So like, Fried Barry is definitely like the first of its kind to come out of South Africa, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And South Africa is quite conservative. So this film's like quite fucking out there for for people. And
oh no, I mean,
great.
It's out there for America too.
Yeah.
Like,
but that's the point. Like, it's a big slap in the face, kind of, right? Which has to gain a lot of attention.
Yeah. But the funny thing is, it's like South Africa is one of the biggest places in the world for commercials. So people from all around the world come shoot here, and it's because we've got all these amazing, beautiful locations that could look like New York, that could look like Mexico, that could look like Italy or Spain or whatever. So we have so many commercials shot here, and we have so many feature films, American feature films that get shot here. But what I decided to do is make the dark side of South Africa that like nobody kind of really sees, and I just wanted to make the town look completely. I just want to make it look completely different. Like I'll probably ruin like Cape Town tourism. Yeah, because people have looked at it and go, fucking hell, I'm not going there. That's fucking horrible.
Or you'll just start attract a whole new crowd.
Yeah. But like I always say, it's one of those things, no matter where you are in the world, you get those dodgy bars, you get those dodgy streets that you don't walk down the road at 4 a.m. So it's anywhere in the world, it's the same. It just happens to be that this alien goes down all the wrong roads and goes to all the wrong places.
Sure.
Basically what it is.
Yeah.
As this alien walks around, and people are like uncontrollably acting weird around him all the time. Am I to understand that he must be emitting some kind of like alien brain waves or something for like the woman at cashier and the
it seems like everybody gets sex crazy.
Yeah, he's giving off that like aura, so everybody just wants to like fuck it, So
totally.
So that's the thing. Like while we were making it, there was just all these.
He's got that big dick alien swagger.
Exactly.
Well, and to be fair, it has to be brainwaves, right? Because Gary Green does not look like somebody that you're going to want to be like alone with in general. Much less mid-coitus.
But this is the thing. This is what I love, that it's not cliche in a sense of like if you look at the trailer or you look at the poster or you just look at Gary's face, when you look at that poster you go, bad guy. He's definitely the bad guy, and that's what normally happens.
Yeah. So
the thing is with the film, it's great because he is that when he's a human, he's that asshole bastard to his family. And then you actually, while you're watching this, you go, fuck, I'm never going to like this character. He's a fucking horrible bastard. But as the movie goes on, you end up caring for him and you end up like reaching for him because he's actually a better person as the alien.
Yeah.
And that's why his wife's like, I can see he's really trying hard to be, try and make things better. And that's because he's like a kid. He's like a sponge. As he's going along, he's learning new stuff. And that's why the interesting thing is
again, like E.T.
Well, and
watching television,
and it's kind of a statement about people in a way, right? Because as the alien learns about people, one of the first things it learns is empathy.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, that's why I say like we're the fucked up ones. You know what I mean? We're the fucked up ones, and it's all the like bits of the scummy society that he, like every character in this movie is like. It's like the dregs of society that he meets. You know what I mean? It's only a few characters where, like the sex worker of his wife, there might be that those trashy people, but you can see that, they're trying to be more decent people, or it's just the underbelly of the lower income people, and then.
Right. She wants to care for her kid, even though she may have forgotten him at home.
Yeah.
But she still thought of him. It was the thought that counts.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's the thought that counts.
Yeah. Well, so when first of all, also congratulations on debuting on Last Drive-In with Joe Bob.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That's a heavy hitter to have
cool.
right out of the gate.
So cool.
He mentioned in his little spiel that you worked without a script for the majority of this. Is that true?
Yeah, because you mentioned earlier, you didn't say script. You said like scene
breakdown. You were just like writing as you like. That's amazing. Like, and now now that that's mentioned, I can see that in the film too. Like, there's a chaos to it that's brilliant.
Yeah, but that's why it had to be. There was so many boxes that it needed to tick to make this exactly how I wanted it to come out. So it was like, in 3 days, I wrote that 50% scene brief breakdown. And for example, it'll be like the supermarket. So it'll be like the cashier scene. And then it will be like the person that gives away the cheese, and then that's it. And then I work around that. And then from driving from one location to the next, I'll be like writing dialogue down, or I'll be free to come up with, ideas and work improv and like all the main dialogue I wrote in the film. But there was bits where I'm like, also like, we can add this, you can add that, or let's scrap all that and I've just got a better idea. Let's do this and this and this. And where I was at the time, I needed something to be super, super creative. So while I was shooting, like we shot the film over a year and a half, only 28 days over a year and a half. So as I was shooting, I was like, cool, I need more of this. I need that. I haven't got this yet. So it was building as we went on. But I did a lot of improv with a lot of the cast members. But at the same time, with Gary, Fried Barry, he doesn't come from a trained actor background. But I wanted him 100% as the lead because I know this is it. Once I got the idea, I knew exactly what I was going to shoot. And I knew that I needed the character like a certain way. So Gary was the only one that I didn't do improv with. I had to be like totally like hands-on with him because the movie relies on him. He is the movie, and that was the thing. Yeah. So what was interesting was that the character was mimicking the people that he meets, and because he hasn't got a lot of dialogue, he'll say the odd word what they're saying, and even if it comes out, not a perfect line delivery, it's fine because he's a fucking alien, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So it's perfect, and that's why everything had to be like fit into place. And then when it came to directing, it would be, I'll be on the side of the camera going, okay, Gary, copy my face. Okay, now do this face. Okay, now do that face, because I'm busy editing the movie in my head. So I'm like, okay, I've got this shot of the other guy. Now I need this shot of Gary, and I need a shot of the other guy, and I need this reaction. So I'm busy editing it in my head, so it looks like, hitting all the beats. But at the same time, nobody could have done this role better than Gary. He's got, I cast him 100%, definitely for the look. He's brilliant. He's got that presence.
Sure, of course.
Nobody else looks like him, and that was the thing. And even with it being shot over a certain amount of time, also the design of the film in such a way that, it's like when you're making a film like this, you don't want to, if you're making a different style of film, but you're shooting over a long period, it's always those things where somebody's cut the hair now, it's changed, or somebody lost the costume. So the main continuity of the movie was Barry. So as long as Barry stayed the same throughout the movie, because like I said, it's like it's like a road movie. So every time you meet some of these characters, we film them and then they're done, and we never need to see them again. So there was only those two extra characters that come back into it, which was his wife and the sex worker, and then that was it. So so the whole design of it had to be right to be able to pull this thing off. So, but I think it just worked with the story and the character that I wanted to do. That it just complemented everything else, with the film.
So is that Gary Green's normal look then, and he was just cool with keeping it for like a year or so?
Yeah, he looks like that anyway. That's why like some people watch it and go, "Oh, the prosthetics is," and I'm like, "No, that's Gary. That's how Gary looks." But that's why Gary looks cool, and that's why I love working with him, because he's got that unique look. He's got that presence. Yeah. Nobody looks like it.
And now I really want you to bring this over here and take it to like South by Southwest or Sundance, just because I want Gary Green to be stalking around Sundance or South by Southwest.
Sitting in a booth.
Yeah, like I want that real bad.
I can't wait.
Just shooting up heroin.
Yeah, exactly.
So you mentioned earlier how we're the fucked up ones in this story, and I totally agree with you. And I think that the scariest individual we meet is someone you brought up earlier, and that's the cheese guy.
Yeah.
The dude who's like inexplicably giddy while he's like handing out free cheese at the grocery store. That dude's close-up, I think, will haunt me forever.
Yeah.
Was that just a random idea, or was that something you're like, I need a cheese guy in this movie?
Well, that was the thing. So when we shot that scene, so in the brief, it was the checkout girl and a person giving away cheese. So that's all it was. But originally, the actor that was meant to play the cheese guy, it was meant to be this awkward Napoleon Dynamite sort of character. And then when we were shooting, when we were shooting the checkout girl, originally the checkout girl, what I shot first was, she was like, can you tell your boyfriend to stop looking at me? Like, I feel like I'm getting pregnant. And it was cool, but it wasn't right. And then I got the idea where I was like, okay, cool. So now I want you to use every single item to like as a sexual thing
Yeah.
and make sure the wife doesn't see, but just be like that you want to fuck Barry. And then we shot that, and as soon as we shot that, I was like, cool, that's the one. We all started laughing after the take, and I'm like, that's perfect.
She did a great job in that scene.
Yeah, she did great. She was so funny, yeah. And then we moved straight from there to the other scene, and the other actor didn't turn up. So my co-producer, James C. Williamson, I was like, dude, like, let's I want you to do this role, so just do it and it'll be funny. And so we'll make it like this gay guy giving away cheese, and you know, I was like, it'll be funny, and like, you know, you got to shake your head, and it's like, you know, very like, you know, POV and be smiling, and yeah, and it just worked. It was so fucking funny.
Yeah.
So
he felt like Melvin from the Toxic Avenger a little bit. Like I got those vibes. Kind of just like weird and chaotic, and like I don't know what he's gonna do. I don't know what his intentions are, but he's shoving cheese in my face.
But it just made it more like funnier and more. Even like when Barry walks away, he's looking at him and go, oh, "Fuck!" Like you know, he just wants to fuck him, you know?
Yeah. Well, so what do you have coming up next? What are you working on now? Like, do you have plans for maybe a sequel to Fried Barry? You could call it Refried Barry.
Well, if I made a second one, it would be called Deep Fried Barry. So that would we would have to top the drugs.
Hell
yeah.
Top everything.
Are you going to also follow up the story of this little alien Barry baby spawn, perhaps?
Yeah, no, definitely. So the thing is now, it's one of those where if the fans want a number 2, then maybe we make a number 2, or it's that thing where I leave it alone as a standalone film. But I've got a lot of cool ideas to make a second one. But yeah, it depends how everybody, you know, reacts to it and maybe wants a second one.
And there's endless amounts of sequels you can do with all the technology out there. You could do air fried Barry at this point, right? Those are popular. Pan-fried.
Yeah.
Air fried is healthiest, but I don't think he really gives a shit about that.
Yeah, he doesn't give a shit about that.
Ryan, it was absolutely wonderful to meet you, man. Thank you so much.
Ryan, thanks again.
Pleasure, man.
Join us all the way from South Africa.
Cool, man. Thank you so much for having me, man. Much appreciated.
Good luck with everything else with Fried Barry.
Cool, man. Thank you so much, man. Enjoy the rest of your day.